Hey guys, Bubba here at the Bubbanews, all in one word, all in one news. Happy July 2nd to you guys. This is going to be a fun video. Oh my goodness. Is there going to be a new hostage deal? That's the whole shebang going on right now. That's all the big talk. The ceasefire in Gaza, the hostage deal during this lull in the action with Iran. So for those of you who have always wondered, and those of you in chat, in the premiere, sometimes you guys have said, oh, it's over already. Well, this is your night. So tonight we're going to do about 35 minutes, I think. We're going to do some videos, and then we're going to get into some Bible prophecies with everything going on. So this is going to be a fun one. But to set the stage for this hostage deal, I want to go over what I threw up last night there on the old Telegram. Yeah, here it is. Israel must remove Hamas from Gaza for the Saudi peace and normalization to take place with Israel. I mean, this was huge for Saudi to report this because Saudi Arabia basically announced to the world that it wants Hamas eradicated. So last night, Israel announced the acceptance of a Trump-induced 60-day ceasefire. And it's taken on some different turns tonight that we're going to go into. But you know what? It's all working towards a 7-year plan. Seriously. This was literally just a little over 4 weeks ago. This was the headline. The 7-year plan is the final ball game. And all these puzzle pieces continue to come together day after day, week after week now, more than I have ever seen before. Seriously, there's not one day that goes by that does not include something very prophetic in the news. Every single day. For those who say, I wish we were living in Bible times, I give the same answer. Or to those who say we're not yet living in the end times, I tell them both, open your eyes. We are living in Bible times, and we are watching the end come about. This is wild. Just remember, this is coming up. Sorry. Actually, I'm going to pause it real quick. And I forgot to tell you guys, but this is a pretty neat display of the 4 main Israeli air defense systems. They're going to be put to the test again really soon. What we just saw was the exoatmospheric Arrow 3. And then we're going to go now into the Arrow 2. And then David's Sling. And finally, they're going to end it up with Iron Dome. So yeah, let's just keep going. But after this, I'm going to talk about, because the Arrow system, the Iron Dome, David's Sling, they intercepted 86% of the ballistic missiles from Iran and over 99% of the drones. And they saved Israel an estimated $18 billion in damage. But before we get to the next video, I'll continue this one because I'm going to show you in this next video, the video I mentioned the other night. But first, let's keep going here. There's the Arrow 2. Next up is the Iron Dome. God has blessed Israel like I've never seen. It all goes back to Genesis 12:3. I will bless them that bless you and curse them that curse you. But here's a video that I showed the other night, because what if Iran, because we're going to get to this in a second, but Iran has closed its airspace in central and western Iran. But what if Iran fired 200 ballistic missiles at once and then fired 100 shortly after in quick succession? This would overwhelm Israel's air defense systems. I mean, Iran might just try this. with what's coming with Elam. And this may be part of why Israel has to go in and do what they have to. But somehow Israel gets hit hard with missiles. During the Damascus prophecy, we read in Isaiah 17, 4 through 6. But check this out. This video is nuts.
If Iran launched 200 ballistic missiles at once, what would happen? They'd be detected immediately by the Carl Vinson strike group's radars in the Persian Gulf at 4,000 meters, and Israel's 3 Arrow 3 systems would fire first. A few minutes later, as the missiles climb higher, Qatar's long-range radar picks up more targets. U.S. destroyers in the Persian Gulf, Red Sea, and Mediterranean then launch SM-3 interceptors to help shoot them down. A few minutes later, interceptors from 3 directions hit Iran's missiles over Iraq at 500 kilometers altitude, the most effective exo-atmospheric interception phase for shooting down ballistic missiles. Most are destroyed. About 40 break through and enter Jordanian airspace. As they re-enter the atmosphere, they come within range of THAAD, David's Sling, Patriot 3, and SM-6 systems. A second round of high-altitude interception starts, but the success rate is lower. About a dozen missiles still get through and reach the final tens of kilometers, closing in on Tel Aviv. At this point, Patriot 2 and Iron Dome launch the final intercepts, the familiar sight of missile trails lighting up Tel Aviv's night sky. Every missile captured on camera has survived multiple layers of interception, pushing through like a stubborn warrior. When those few missiles finally hit the ground, the battle damage report shows Tel Aviv suffered 8.7% destruction proof that some missiles got through. Iran lost about 200 missiles, each costing around $500,000, for a total cost of $100 million. On the defensive side, just the expensive interceptors cost over $1 billion. 45 THAAD missiles at $3 million each, 72 Arrow 3S at $4 million each, and 36 SM-3S at $20 million each, not counting other interceptors. This 1-10 exchange ratio isn't even the deadliest part. After the first wave of 200 missiles, most of the U.S. and Israeli interceptor stockpiles would be nearly depleted and take hours to reload. Ship-based SM-3S would need even longer, since ships must return to port and reload. Meanwhile, Iran could launch another wave within minutes. So what if Iran immediately fired another 100 missiles? Basically, there would be no resistance. 100 more ballistic missiles would hit Tel Aviv directly, causing 92.6% damage. What would happen if Iran fired all 2,000 missiles at once? If this exchange keeps up, how long can the U.S. and Israel hold out?
I mean, it's a good, you know what I mean? It's a cool video, I think, showing what can happen, because they can overwhelm the Israeli air defenses. But Israel's taken out so many of the Iranian rocket launchers. But something is still coming up, and I continue to say this just because the Bible prophecies that are coming up, and something is coming up. And Israel's going to take a really big hit. And this is why they're going to have to leash out and fulfill the Damascus prophecy and take out the oldest continuous city on the planet. But, you know, regarding Israel, we started off today with this, because I will plant Israel in their own land, never again to be uprooted from the land I have given them. So this is a prophecy, and this happened May 14th, 1948, when Israel became a nation again, and the Jews came in. They started performing Aliyah, and they're continuing to do it to this day. But this is just wild, because now we're going to start getting to prophecy stuff, because this was announced today by Israel. They said the time has come for Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria. All the Likud ministers sent a letter to Netanyahu calling on him to apply Israeli sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, before the Knesset summer session ends July 27th. The Israeli Justice Minister today said that the time has come to extend Israeli sovereignty to Judea and Samaria, and said that the Israeli government is facing a moment of historic opportunity we cannot miss. He continued, "It is essential first and foremost to realize our rights to the land." Even on June 5th, Bezalel Smotrich, he instructed the IDF and the Israeli Defense Ministry Settlement Administration to formulate an operational plan for applying sovereignty. And he said, "We will not stop until the entire area receives its full legal status and becomes an inseparable part of the state of Israel. Israel is moving in. And we read about that in Obadiah 1, 17 through 20, how Israel's going to expand. Every time Israel goes to war, they end up gaining land. But everything is talking about this hostage deal and the hostage deal update, the ceasefire possibilities. Hamas is expected to respond to the hostage deal framework within the next 24 hours. So they're talking about ending the war after the 60-day ceasefire period. And the Trump administration's getting really involved in this. And he said if the talks are serious, they will extend beyond the 60 days. But Israel is not committed to ending the war, but rather to engaging in talks about ending the war. So we're going to have to talk about that, but we're going to get to that in a second. But this is what happened earlier today. Iran shut down its western and central airspace to passenger aircraft. The country's transportation ministry announced, reversing a brief reopening during the ceasefire with Israel. So no one really knows why they said that they did this, but the Aviation Coordination Committee ordered the closure, citing safety and security concerns. I mean, this is wild. But, Iran's major airports like Tehran's airport and the Imam Khomeini airports, they're going to stay closed with flight cancellations extended until 2 p.m. local time in Iran on Thursday. But that will be extended. So, this sudden reversal raises new concerns and fears that Israel may violate the ceasefire. I mean, Iran has now suspended all cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. I mean, this move was ratified even by President Pezeshkian in the Iranian parliament. But back to the hostage deal, Netanyahu reaffirmed his commitment to destroying Hamas. He said there will not be a Hamas. There will not be a Hamastan. We're not going back to that. It is over. Meanwhile, Hamas says it's reviewing the ceasefire proposals with the goal of ending the war. This is what Hamas wants. They want Israel to end the war, and they want to have it ensured that a complete Israeli withdrawal happens from Gaza. But Netanyahu's stance is basically with the reality that Hamas can't coexist for regional security in the area. So, the ceasefire proposals, it demands a full Israeli withdrawal. But it ignores the strategic necessity of dismantling Hamas's military capabilities. So they would definitely regroup. This is getting wild. Hamas is reviewing the deal. That's a stalling tactic. And the October 7th massacre proved that they view negotiations as opportunities to rearm, not to come to peace and reconcile. I say no Israeli withdrawal until Hamas is eradicated. Because that's part of the plan, too, for Saudi Arabia to even get involved. But you know what? Of all the things that won't happen, this is the least likely to ever happen. Today, a U.S. bill was presented. One was presented last year in 2024 as well as 2022. But this bill, this bunker buster bill, would allow the U.S. president to lend Israel B-2 stealth bombers and the bunker busting bombs. The bill would authorize Trump to provide Israel with any equipment, support, training, or resources deemed necessary to maintain Iran's status as a non-nuclear state, including access to missiles and munitions that have now been restricted to the U.S. use only. Other things that it would allow for are the storage of the GBU-57s in Israel, those big, massive ordnance penetrators. And if Iran continues to breach the non-proliferation treaty, as already determined by the IAEA, and they want this to happen, the Bunker Busting Act of 2025. I saw this, and, thank you. Isn't that what Trump's been doing lately? He says, thank you for your attention to this matter. But this is nuts, too, because this is going on after Israel announced that they're doing the full-on sovereignty and they're going to start moving in on Judea and Samaria. Well, Egypt's starting to get nervous. This is provoking reactions in the Arab world. And the Egyptian Foreign Ministry issued a strong condemnation today, of the growing calls in Israel to apply sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. Cairo stated that the words of Israeli government ministers, including the Minister of Justice, conflict with the principles of international law and constitute an attempt to establish the illegal occupation of Palestinian lands. Because they're saying that this is going to hinder the two-state solution if Israel does this. Because Israel would then be taking the land that is, quote-unquote, for the Palestinians. But now the Egyptian Foreign Ministry is calling on the international community to intervene and step in to stop these Israeli violations. They urged countries around the world to work to promote the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state. That's still coming. But this also came out today with the Aragachi, the Iran's foreign minister, reporter. President Trump says Iran's nuclear facilities were obliterated. He says they were seriously and heavily damaged.
What we know so far is that the facilities have been seriously and heavily damaged.
President Trump has made it clear multiple times that Iran's nuclear facilities targeted in those U.S. strikes were, in his words, obliterated. Have they been obliterated?
It appears that they have been heavily and seriously damaged. No one at the moment says that the facilities have remained intact. It is the technology and know-how that is still there.
So we still have those guys to worry about. And, the United States came out today and said that they believe that they kicked Iran's nuclear program back 1 to 2 years. I said they might have kicked it back 1 to 2 weeks. Because the United States still does not talk about Pickaxe Mountain and all the enriched uranium that they moved. Well, Saudi Arabia is getting ready as well, because Saudi Arabia's air defense today officially inducted their first THAAD missile defense battery after completing testing and training. This is part of a $15 billion deal that was signed during Trump's first term. And it includes 7 THAAD batteries with 44 launchers, 360 missile interceptors, 16 command units, and 7 AN TPY-2 radars. So Saudi Arabia's induction of its first THAAD battery marks a major upgrade to its missile defense arsenal, realizing a key defense deal from the previous U.S. administration. But I wanted to touch on this next story too, and we're going to start getting prophetic more. But, back on May 22nd, of this year, the UAE officially launched Stargate UAE, which is the first international deployment of Stargate, which is OpenAI's AI infrastructure platform. This is also the first partnership under OpenAI for countries that you see on the top. This is their new global initiative to help interested governments build AI capability in coordinates with the U.S. government. But check it out. This new partnership will support the UAE in leveraging OpenAI's tools across all critical sectors like government, energy, healthcare, education, transportation, to help accelerate innovation and economic growth while creating a digital ID tracking infrastructure for its people. But here's the part that got my attention. In the initial phase of OpenAI for countries, this is a direct quote from this. I'll put the link in the description box below, but this is the UAE's own website with the Chat GPT. Here's what they say. In the initial phase of OpenAI for countries, we aim to pursue 10 partnerships across 10 countries, 10 key countries and regions, laying the foundation for a globally distributed, democratically powered AI network. Okay, let's call it for what it is. This is a demonically powered 10 region, 10 country AI global network. Are these the 10 horns that are going to rise up, or at least a part of it, for these global data collection centers? I mean, this reminds me of Revelation 17, verses 12 and 13. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings or rulers who have not yet received a kingdom And keep in mind, this AI could be considered a king or a kingdom in the days to come, as everything will be bowing down to worship the system. But they receive authority as kings with the beast for 1 hour. These have one purpose, and they give their power and authority to the beast. Granted, they are humans, I believe, as well, because they will give their power to the beast. But that being said, this is demonically inspired AI intelligence power. You know, people say we're not in the end times yet. I say open your eyes. But here's what's next, because I want to talk about ancient Assyria, which includes Turkey. Because Syria is moving towards the Abraham Accords to reduce the Turkish influence on Syria. Erdogan is doing everything to legitimize Israel. Turkey doesn't like Israel. And an agreement between Israel and Syria, well, that will undermine Turkey's strategy. By getting closer to Israel, Syrian President Jolani, there on the left, is essentially trying to reduce Turkish influence on Damascus. Jolani is trying to reduce dependency on Turkey without completely severing ties. But President Erdogan of Turkey is watching with concern because Syria is a country that's under Turkish influence. And if they might join the Abraham Accords, Erdogan on the right doesn't like that. I mean, is Turkey's influence in Syria strong enough to prevent it from happening and joining? I mean, this is a complex geopolitical struggle, and it's unfolding with Turkey at the center of it all. Turkey sees every step Damascus is taking towards joining the Abraham Accords as being a direct threat to Turkey's regional position. I think that Turkey is going to make some major efforts to ensure that the Syrians do not sign this agreement with Israel. Now, that being said, a thought came into my mind earlier today. What if Turkey is starting to move more of their people and their men in the days to come into Damascus, and they're bringing in all kinds of weapons? And that may be another reason why Israel has to take it out, which could level Damascus in the future, Isaiah 17. But here's a point I wanted to get to over here, and we're going to come back to this in a second, the hostage deal, but I wanted to show you guys the map of Assyria. Everything there in the orange, all the way up, and then down there into Egypt was the Assyrian Empire. And the other section inside of that was the Babylonian Empire. But look how far Assyria goes into Turkey, into Syria, into parts of Jordan, into Iraq. All of that could be the Antichrist to come, where he's coming from, the Assyrians. And now we're going to start getting into prophetic stuff before we get to the hostage deal real quick. But check it out, because I was watching Chuck Missler and, trying to learn, I can't wait to meet him in glory. But check it out. Here's some verses talking about the Assyrian. And these people say we know who the Antichrist is. It's Mohammed bin Salman. My question is, how does he fit into the Assyrian profile here? O my people that dwellest in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee, after the manner of Egypt. For yet a very little while, and the indignation shall cease, and mine anger in their destruction. Talking about the Assyrian. Isaiah 14, 25, 26. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Then shall his yoke depart off from them, and his burden depart off from their shoulders. This is the hand that stretched out upon all the nations. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, God says. This is wild. And the Lord shall cause his glorious voice to be heard, and shall show the lightning down of his arm. With the indignation of his anger, and with the flame of a devouring fire, with scattering and tempest and hailstones. For through the voice of the Lord shall the Assyrian be broken down, beaten down, which smote with a rod, Isaiah 30, 30, and 31. But I love this one in Micah 5, 5, and 6. This is such a cool study. It truly reminds me of the 7+1. Because the Antichrist kicks out 3. So there's going to be 7 left with him as the leader, 7+1. And this man shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land, Israel, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds, and 8 principal or 8 leaders of men right there. 7 shepherds, 8 leaders of men. The Antichrist is the 8th one. And they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod in the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian when he comes into our land, and when he treads within our borders. That's what I'm saying. I think something's still coming up with the Antichrist coming from this area right here. Oh, I forgot to show you too. Remember this verse here in Daniel 9:26 at the top? And the people of the prince that shall come. We all used to think that was European, like a Roman soldier. But check it out. Chuck Missler points this out. The Roman legions were not necessarily European, and he points this out. The 10th legion that went in to destroy Jerusalem and the temple in 70 AD, they were Assyrian mercenaries. The prince of the people that shall come. The Assyrian people. The prince that shall come from the Assyrians. That's what I'm saying, guys. This is starting to get wild, prophetic. That's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah. Let's keep going. Yeah, the hostage deal. Where were we? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, let's keep going. But, yeah, here's the hostage deal. The Israeli officials say that if Hamas accepts the deal for the release of all hostages, the Gaza war will end. So Qatar is proposing a 60-day ceasefire. During the ceasefire, Qatar proposes that Hamas gets to continue to keep 10 living hostages and 12 deceased bodies. Qatar has never told Hamas it must free all the hostages. Qatar wants Hamas to survive this war that Hamas started, because a lot of these guys live in Qatar. The top echelon, they live there as protection of Hamas. Qatar is basically telling Hamas to keep the hostages. Islam is insane. I mean, what does Hamas need to do with 12 bodies, deceased bodies of Israelis? These are the terms? 10 hostages at first, and then maybe they'll release 10 more if they feel like it? Why does anyone think this is acceptable? I mean, Israel's message should be crystal clear. You want a ceasefire? All the hostages immediately. No compromises, no vague proposals, no options. This is not a negotiation. Hamas is in no position to set the terms. I mean, this is what I'm talking about with this U.S.-backed hostage deal update right before I hit the record button. Under a revised framework, Hamas would release 10 living hostages and 18 bodies in 5 different phases over 60 days in exchange for Palestinian prisoners to be released from Israeli prisons who have taken out Israelis. They want more aid to be brought in, and they want the UN to do it, and not the 54 million meals that have been distributed in 33 days already by the GHF. They want negotiations towards ending the war. But the U.S. is now providing assurances that the ceasefire will stay in effect even if a final peace deal isn't reached yet. Just the fact that they're saying this, even if a final peace deal isn't reached yet, as long as the talks continue. But they don't want any public ceremonies with video recordings and uploads and live streams of Israeli hostages being released by Hamas and then parading. There will be no more of that going over during the handovers. But Hamas is reportedly indicating that it's satisfied with this revised agreement. Hamas official Tahir al-Nunu said, yeah, it's a fun name, said that Hamas was ready and serious regarding reaching an agreement. He added that the terror group was ready to accept any initiative that clearly leads to the complete end to the war. Hamas wants a complete end to the war. They don't want to be even dealt with anymore. They just want Israel out. But, I mean, this has ignited at least reignited the hopes of returning the remaining hostages. But Israel has repeatedly refused agreements that would have seen the conflict end in Gaza, with Hamas still in control, because they will rearm and re-attack. Even Hamas officials have they've repeatedly bragged over and over that they will repeat the October 7th attack once again. It's time for the prophecies of Amos 1, 6 through 8, Jeremiah 47, 4 through 7. What is the other one? Zephaniah 2, verses 4 through 7. With the destruction of Hamas to take place. That's what needs to happen. Yes, they need this ceasefire deal. Yes, they need this hostage deal. Will they get this hostage deal? Trump even wants Netanyahu and Hamas to agree to this before Netanyahu even comes to D.C. on Monday. But I believe something crazy is going to happen on Monday. It's very possible something could happen even this weekend as we approach July 4th weekend. But with all the pre-planned propaganda that's out there, it's almost like everyone's looking for it. So that's when it won't happen. You know what I mean? Because everything that's happened that's shaken our lives, it always happens when we least expect it. And when Netanyahu visits on July 7th, that is 777. If you take 25, the year 2025, take 25, 2 plus 5, you have 777. Huh. That'd be a really cool departure date, actually, if you think about that. The way it comes down to 777 when you do the 2 plus 5 for 2025. But I don't know, guys. This is wild. You know, I'm watching this stuff with Egypt. I'm watching this stuff with the Temple Mount. So much is going on with that. Just the fact that they're placing signs directing Israelis to the Temple Mount, that's just absolutely nuts. And I was looking it up last night because I've seen the video by Live by Faith Ministries there, YouTube, Matt. I might even join with those guys tomorrow night with Jason K. All those guys are good stuff. But yeah, Matt was showing that video about how they're talking about they've been doing some building there at the Temple Mount, and they are. They have begun the work for the Kotel, Kotel elevator. And they're going to use this as a lift to take up people from the wall down below up to the Temple Mount above. They're going to install an elevator that can hold 30 people at a time, take them up from the western wall there where they pray, and take them up to the actual Temple Mount proper. And I believe it's a 26-meter climb that they're bypassing, and they're building this brand new elevator. So much is coming up, and so much, I mean, just the talk of Israel saying that they're going to take over, they're going to take back all of Judea and Samaria, aka the West Bank. I mean, that's prophetic. That's like Israel's like, yeah, we're going to take our land. I mean, stuff is crazy town that's coming up, but that's what I'm saying, guys. Every single day now, we can just look at the headlines in the news, open our Bibles, and just see these headlines and read them through the reading glasses of the Bible and just see how close we are to the very end. Guys, we're getting so close. Lift up your heads. Our redemption is drawing nigh. And if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, cry out to him today. If you're not sure about this whole thing, none of us in here, we don't like religion, number one. Jesus hated religion, number two. We're believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, number three. It's a big difference. But you know what? If you are having problems and don't understand God, cry out to him. Seek for him while he may be found. When you start looking for the Lord and you want to know more about eternal life and salvation and who God is, he will show himself to you. That's what I keep telling people. Test him. We are living in the end times, and God is going to show up, and God is going to show off. And God is going to be glorified in everything. And, oh man, guys, I'm so excited. All right, I'm done rambling. Let's get this uploaded, and we'll talk to you soon. I'll see you here, there, or in the air. Maranatha, Jesus Christ is coming so very soon.